Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, everybody was excited for the next batch of Project Veritas videos. Apparently, they had hundreds of hours of CNN footage. So what they do today, they released that footage on their website. James O'Keefe has now offered a $10,000 award for evidence of media malfeasance. Now, this is the interesting thing about this last one. Now James O'Keefe has put this bounty out there essentially to help him track down media malfeasance. And I think what he would like to do is have people go through these hundreds of hours of videotape that they uploaded to their website and see if they hear anything, find anything interesting, almost like a WikiLeaks email dump. But here's the thing, they are under attack. This is from Politico. Project Veritas CNN leaks fell flat. While I will admit this didn't have as much excitement or as much of an impact as Project Veritas' last videos, exposing the DNC, exposing the Disrupt J20. However, this is like going to a ball game and a guy just hit 4 home runs for 4 days in a row, and then you show up to the ballpark and he only hits 1 home run. It was still a great day. Sorry you didn't have the greatest day in history, but it is worth noting that they put these hundreds of hours on their website, and maybe you could be the next person to get a award from James O'Keefe. You go through these tapes, you find something interesting, and maybe James O'Keefe is looking to talk with you. So that's what came of the big drop today from Project Veritas. Again, I know a lot of people were expecting something huge, but this is more like a WikiLeaks style dump, and I think the overall impact is yet to be known. Well, the overall impact of Trump is very well known, and the people who are working with him are praising his open door policy. This is something that I talked about. You know, Donald Trump's White House has been the most transparent White House, maybe of all time, certainly in my life. But now people inside the White House working are just amazed at how, hey, if I need access to Donald Trump, if I've got something I want to talk to him about, I just walk right into his office. The door is always open for me. So not just the media in there every time he signs an executive order, not just doing hour-and-a-half-long press conferences, taking questions from anybody, even going to Skype for questions. He has an open-door policy within the White House, and the people that are working there are enjoying it. Now, more out of the White House, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, we are committed to very significant tax reform by August recess. What? August? I'm not down with this. Why isn't this bipartisan? Why can't we do something about lowering taxes bipartisanly? You would think that that's something that both sides could get behind. Of course, we know that's not the case given the welfare state, and we've actually got more about Democrats trying to raise taxes later in the segment. But to me, I hear this, and this is not good news. I know that Mnuchin is sitting here trying to say, hey, this is a good thing. We're going to get the taxes lowered. Well, let's do it a little sooner than August then. Now, if they get it done in August and it's the tax proposal plan that we've seen Donald Trump put on his website, okay, then we'll applaud you. But it still feels like August. It feels like it's an attempt to just keep pushing this back, and get us used to that. Now, on to John McCain, someone who is very bitter that he was never in the White House. John McCain makes secret trip to Syria in midst of U.S. assessment. This is unheard of, by the way. Senator John McCain secretly traveled to northern Syria last weekend to speak with American military officials and Kurdish fighters at the forefront of the push to drive the Islamic State out of their capital in Raqqa. This is according to U.S. officials, to which I ask, what officials? Who are these officials? I don't know who these officials are. Do you? I don't see Donald Trump talking about this. I don't see anyone out of the Trump cabinet talking about this. McCain first traveled to the rebel-controlled Syria in 2013 when he met with the leaders of the Free Syrian Army. This is huge, folks. The umbrella group supported by America and its allies. This was believed to be the first visit to Syria since then. This is very rare, folks. It's very rare for somebody out of the U.S. government to go visit Syria like this. Why is John McCain doing it secretly? Why in 2013 did he meet with the Syrian army, which is nothing more than a proxy army of Wahhabists that John McCain is managing? You see what's going on here, folks? John McCain is up to no good. What gives John McCain the authority and the power, and who is he meeting with exactly? We know who he's met with in the past, the Free Syrian Army. Look at who they turned out to be working with. ISIS. Why is John McCain meeting with them? Donald Trump needs to be all over John McCain on this, in my opinion. Here's Democrats trying to raise your taxes. Massachusetts tries gun control the old-fashioned way. Higher taxes. The legislation sponsored by Democratic Senator Cynthia Cream is one of many she said she has filled every state Senate session in order to make it harder and harder to obtain a gun. Oh, you want to infringe on my Second Amendment right, don't you? 4.75% surcharge increase, 6.25% sales tax, 11% federal excise tax. That's called infringement, Democrats. Read the Bill of Rights. Now, boy, is John Podesta just in a whole mess of himself right now. But the Washington Post has still decided to give him a column. John Podesta joins the Washington Post as contributing artist. Boy, it's been a rough time for Podesta on social media. He's even been called a loser by Lynn de Rothschild, blaming Podesta for Hillary Clinton's loss. I don't know if he's referring to the emails or the incompetence or something else, but that was interesting to see. But you know, Podesta isn't the only scumbag out of the Democratic Party. We've also got one, Maxine Waters, who might just be completely mentally deranged. Here's John Bowne with more on that.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
We're sending help immediately, Mrs. Fletcher.
The Democratic Party has fallen and it can't get up.
The reality is that the world has moved to a place where the Democratic Party is no longer keeping up with it. There are more independents than there are registered party people.
Not only was the primary rigged, it was also rigged all across the country because the DNC has never allowed outsiders or brand new people to rise through the ranks. It has always been an insider game, and it has been that way for a very, very long time. That is where that lack of trust has come into play, because not only was Bernie Sanders snubbed, not only did it look like Hillary Clinton had bought or muscled her way into it, then those supporters were denied a chance to speak.
Minnesota Representative Keith Ellison, one of the lunatics in line to take over the Iron Throne at the DNC, is calling for the impeachment of President Trump, fueled by outright arrogance.
Donald Trump has already done a number of things which legitimately raised the question of impeachment.
Meanwhile, the crossed wires in House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi's brain continue to malfunction.
In fact, don't take it from me. John Kasich, the governor of Illinois, said, "Thank God for Medicaid." As Martin Luther King said, of all the inequality you've seen, the most damaging, and he used a different word, is the inequality of access to health care.
While New York Senator Chuck Schumer takes his visceral bag of Democratic Party dogma to the American public.
I am worried that Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, is so close to Trump in so many ways that that investigation certainly won't have the appearance of impartiality and may not be impartial itself. So I've called today on Jed Sessions to recuse himself. And if you agree with that, TV audience, tell your senator or congressman to do it.
Leading the charge with falsehoods blazing is California Representative Maximum Overdrive Maxine Waters, resorting to an all-out ambush on the intellect of the silent majority of American voters.
My colleagues and the leadership would not like to hear me say the I word, but I say it over and over again: impeachment, impeachment, impeachment.
Perhaps Maxine Waters is still angry that she was investigated for 3 years by the House Ethics Committee for the favors resulting in the $12 million TARP bailout funds her husband's bank received after One United Bank was given special favors due to Waters' connections to allow One United Bank to plead with the Treasury Department after the financial crisis of 2007 to 2008. After all, the executives at One United Bank financed Waters' campaign. Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington named Waters to its list of corrupt members of Congress in its 2005, 2006, 2009, and 2011 reports.
Maxine, why don't we impeach you?
And I just think the American people had better understand what's going on. This is a bunch of scumbags. That's what they are.
Those are very strong words,
organized around making money.
Who do you mean by that when you call them scumbags? Who are you talking about?
All of these people who are organized with these oil and gas interests that's in the administration and friends
you're calling the
of the
Secretary
President of the United States, this back channeling that you see, these are a bunch of scumbags.
Secretary
That's
of State,
what they are.
you mean the Secretary of State of the United States?
These mouthpieces of the imploding Democratic Party are as filthy a group of scumbags as they come, still bending the taxpayers' system to their diminishing financial and political advantage, and desperately sowing division in the shadow of their Lord and Savior, former President Barack Obama. John Bound for Infowars.com.
Well, there's no doubt that the Democrats thrive off identity politics and even race-based diversions and divide and conquer tactics. Now, Keith Ellison is the latest. In fact, Keith Ellison once said black people don't have obligation to obey the government. Wonder what he meant by that. So I guess Keith Ellison feels that way because he doesn't have an obligation to tradition. Actually, he was the first to be sworn in on the Quran. But he said black people don't live in a democracy and don't have an obligation to obey the government. Well, actually, that's right. Black people in America don't live in a democracy. They live in a republic. But what exactly are you suggesting here? So the next time a Black Lives Matter march turns violent, are you okay with that? I mean, after all, according to you, black people don't have to obey the government. What about white people? What about Asian people? Just forget about them, I guess. They need to obey the law. But again, this is the exact quote. You don't have an obligation to obey a government that considers you to be less than a human. And you know what? At a point in time, people like Martin Luther King exposed that. And here we are today, moved forward as a society. But have we really moved forward? I don't think Ellison has. And my response to that comment is, look at what's happened at Infowars. Look at what's happening to conservatives in the media, on social media. We are the ones that are now looked at as less than human. Fake news. People get to assault Trump supporters out in the street and the media praises it. I mean, literally, folks, you've seen all the videos. I don't need to talk about it ad nauseum. But again, we need to start putting light on the people who are encouraging this type of violence. The Robert Reeses of the world. The Keith Ellisons. We need to shed light on these people and make sure they no longer have any say in our schools or in our governments, because this is what happens, folks. Outrage over food carts serving free food only for black people. Now, this is outside the Bronx Supreme Court in New York. But why would somebody even have an idea like this in their head? Why would somebody who's out trying to feed people who are hungry care whether you're black or white? See, this is the virtue signaling, folks. This is what people like Keith Ellison dream of when they virtue signal for whatever their cause is. In his case, it's black people. For Linda Sarsour's case, it's Muslims. But again, imagine this in reversal. If I had a food cart and I was going through downtown and I said, for white people only. Well, I'd certainly be on every mainstream media outlet, wouldn't I? Let's see if that story reaches CNN or MSNBC. Or maybe this one. University of Michigan students demand no whites allowed space to plot social justice activism. What? A student activist group at the University of Michigan is demanding campus officials provide them with a, quote, permanent designated space on central campus for black students and students of color to organize and do social work. Is that racist, or am I just living in a vacuum here, where nothing is racist as long as it's against the white man? I don't know. This is ironic because this comes just on the heels of the public university building a $10 million center for black students in the center of campus. Of course, University of Michigan is not racist, and they say, hey, anybody can use this. Black people, white people, old students, young students, transfer students, international students. It's for all students. But that's not enough for these protesters, see? They want a space where white people aren't even allowed in the door. Imagine that, folks. Imagine that. Imagine this. A Danish man who videotaped himself burning the Quran is now charged with blasphemy. This is the first time a case like this has been filed in 46 years. Now, the rumors of Quran burnings have sparked arrests, lynchings, and riots in Muslim-majority countries, while the move has been appropriated by the far-right and anti-Islamic groups, including the Westboro Baptist Church in America. I'm confused. Where did they get that out of nowhere? They just throw the Westboro Baptist Church in here out of nowhere to associate that with anti-Islamic and far-right groups, of course. So I just want to be on record that we have no association with the Westboro Baptist Church. However, it's interesting to think, if you burn the Quran in these Muslim countries, they will punish you severely. If you burn the flag in America, what happens? You get allowed to do it. Unless, of course, you're around a patriot, then you might get your ass kicked. U.S. nuclear center plane flies to Norway, where radiation particles are spreading across Europe, where first detected as mystery still surrounds the source comes after a spike in the levels of radioactive iodine-131 in Europe. And, of course, this is also on the heels of Fukushima just getting worse and worse every day.
In case you haven't heard, Infowars has become the most influential media outlet in America. We're making freedom go viral. And now we are proud to announce a new weapon in the epic battle against the globalists. Infowars Prime, where you can watch live high-definition feeds of The Alex Jones Show, plus exclusive insider videos from the Infowars crew and behind-the-scenes action. Go to Infowars.com/app and download today. Infowars Prime is available right now for your iPhone or Android. You will have access to exclusive videos that you can't see anywhere else. And that means live coverage of events and breaking news on location as it happens. You can also take advantage of amazing deals from the Infowars store that are only available for Infowars Prime subscribers. That's Infowars Prime at Infowars.com/app. And if you can hear my voice, you are the resistance.